Hi there and welcome to Bustthenet. It's time for another Getting Started with video, and this time we head to Old Trafford. It's going to be Manchester United. When you begin with Manchester United, you're going to meet your chairman, Ed Woodward, and he's going to be very specific. They give you a very generous contract of 165,000 quid a week, and you are expected to develop players using the club's youth system. Somebody please tell Jose Mourinho that, and play attacking football. I didn't think I'd ever in my lifetime ever start a United save, but here we are. You will go through the usual routine, meeting the assistant manager. You come in straight away and you will see a few of your players suffering from long-term injuries. You got Zlatan, as we all know. He's out basically till half the season. Probably see him in the latter stages of the Champions League. Marco Rojo, torn knee ligaments. Both of them seem to have torn knee ligaments. And Luke Shaw, damaged foot, also out for 3 to 2 months. And you're going to have a few of your players in your club, and you're going to have to get to know them very quickly because they all have a slight injury issues. After you go to your customary, get to know you with all the staff, then we get to the scouting screen. Now, United have a very large scouting team, as we should expect, with 42 members. You have to be very careful with how you use your scouting budget, because even with these number of scouts out there running around, you could end up in a situation where you use this 720k inside the first 3 months. So what you want to do is when you begin scouting, have a system in place where once you see a player and you've got some information, if you can make a rudimentary guess, because you need to know your players and you need to know what you're looking for. And once you've analyzed your squad, if you find that you have shortfalls, let's assume that you have a shortfall in the defensive department, then look at the range very quickly. If you're aiming for 15 or 16 as an attribute and you get something like 13 to 15, then you may want to hold off. You may want to scout him a bit more. And then once you get like a few of the key attributes sorted and you know what they are, that's when you stop scouting. You don't need to scout them till 100% because it's going to become very expensive. So at the start of the game when you go in, you're going to have to be very disciplined about how you use scouting, because scouting is kind of a shock. And the other thing that I think people have been on the beta as well, some of the bugs, people have been complaining that it doesn't make sense, and I totally agree, that United senior package and youth package is just England and England when it should really be world and world. So if I were you, I'd go in here, player search, and raise the budget. This will give you a larger budget to choose from. This is what I do, because if you're looking at United's transfer budget, it's 42 million. That money that if you start spending a lot out of scouting and the costs go up, they will knock out your transfer budget until there's no more money left. So have a plan very quickly. So what we're going to do with United on today's show is very simple. We're going to analyze the squad. We're going to see what we have, the tactics that they use in real life. We're going to try and come up with a few systems, or at least one system that is ideally suited for United. I'm not claiming there's going to be a replication, but at least we can try to get some of the principles behind the way they play, and we're going to essentially get you started with United. If you're going to manage United, please make sure that your manager reputation is high, because it's going to make it very hard for you to get into a club and get their support. My manager reputation isn't all that good. So if you see that, when you come in, you're going to have a lot of players opposing you, which makes it a really tough challenge for you to win them over, because you got to do several things. The first thing you got to do is win lots of games, and then players are going to come into your office asking for first team action, which is going to be very common with a team like United. And if you decide to demote their squad status, they're going to get upset. If you take one player and you tell him to pay more attention to stuff on the pitch and you kick him out of the office, all it takes is another 2 players to show up in your office, and the entire happiness of the team will sink to abysmal. At the moment, they're still okay. They have not turned on you yet, but they can quickly turn on you if you don't get the dynamics right. So the best way to start, if you want to manage United, especially United, you got to make sure that your badges give you the reputation that you need to manage a team like that if it's your first time playing this game. If it's not your first time and you're used to it and you know how to rotate your team and you know how to handle everything, then there's no issue. You take as big a challenge as you want, because United aren't a difficult team to play with. You have the players at your disposal to get good results, but what you need to do is make sure that you balance the rotation of your team, because key players will expect to play like 60% of the games, first team players about 50%, and rotation players about 45%. So you make sure that you get those numbers, at least for the first 10 to 15 games. For every 15 games, you're going to have to make sure that you get to play the right players in that team. So your squad view is going to be very important. Here, we have a squad view for the team. I'm just going to use a simple one here. And we will know that if you're looking at United, you've got lots of key players. Lukaku, Matic, De Gea, and Paul Pogba, they all expect to play. Then if you're looking at your first team, you've got naturally Zlatan is injured. Then you got Valencia, Mkhitaryan, Andy Herrera, Juan Mata. Juan Mata might be an issue for some of you. Eric Bailey, Martial, Lindelof. Now, all of them are first-team players. They expect to play quite a fair few games. So you're going to have to be very, very selective. You're going to have to make a decision straight away how you play this team. Because, for example, if you start playing Marcus Rashford for every single game, then your formation, you're going to have problems with some of your players. That Juan Mata will probably come to you and go, I need to play first-team football. And what you need to then do is go to the dynamics and the hierarchy to find out where Juan Mata sits. Juan Mata is one of the influential players. So if he starts getting really pissed off with you, then you're going to have an issue, because he's going to turn a few of these players, and the next thing you know, you're going to have a whole bunch of players who are opposing you. So be very careful about how you play your team and set them up. When you look at his schedule, you'll discover that you have quite a few friendly games, and you're traveling to the US on a tour. Galaxy, Real Salt Lake, San Jose, Colorado, Seattle. But between Seattle and the Real Madrid, you only have 3 days, so you're gonna have to be very careful with who you play against in the match against Seattle. The other thing you want to remember is that by the time you hit Seattle, you're gonna have to stop your pre-season training of sorts. If you're doing match preparation, you can carry on match tactics for 1 or 2 games after that, but generally I find that there's no point going beyond that, because I know people have been saying the match tactics helps them, but seriously, it's only it does familiarity. Your players might get better at playing the tactics, but I'm more into development of my players. I want the attributes to kick in, because attributes are a number that kick into the match engine and they affect how you play, because as the attributes improve, so do the players. So there are certain things you want to do with your squad straight away. Then you need to go to your staff. Now here, United have probably one hell of a scouting team. We're all excited to see this. If I was in this game, imagine United, I'm going to have the time of my life. But there's something that you need to do. And if you're looking at your coaching department, you notice you got 4 free slots. And if you're looking at your physiotherapy department, you also have a few slots. You want to hire a head physio. This will help you in your treatment of your players. Physios help with treatment, while sports scientists help with prevention. So you want to get 1 or 2 more physios into your team. The other thing you want to do is you want to get a few more coaches in your team. Now this is going to be very easy for you to fill, because you already got 4 slots, and most other clubs have an issue with number of coaches, but you won't have. You see, the thing here is you're going to have to look for 1 more fitness coach. So you're going to look for a fitness coach. You're going to look for a tactics coach as well. If you look at your tactics, the max you can do is 3 stars. Now there is a calculator that you can use, and I have the calculator. It's not hard. Even the formulas for FM18 still work. You go out there and get yourself a tactics coach, and then you will need at least you need 1 tactics coach and at least one attacking coach. The guy can do attacking or ball control, so that you can specialize in one area and then get the other coaches to dual hat. Like I usually get myself involved in every single aspect of training. There are some of you out there who don't want to get your hands dirty with training. That's fine, but at least get the coaches first, so that you can maximize your stars and reduce the load for your coaches, because you want to hit light as much as possible. This will ensure that your coaches can give the best attention to their players. If it's going to be heavy or average, it's not ideal. So if you're being United, you definitely have a chance to do that. when I look at the expectations that the club has of you, it's kind of cool because I don't think there's too much pressure. Champions League qualification, that should be easy. FA Cup final, that might be a bit tough, but I think it's still doable for a club at United. And getting to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, wow, okay, negotiate the first round, okay, knock out one game, that's it. Should be easy for United. What's the next thing that we need to do? We need to, I think, as far as a comparison is concerned, you can do a comparison here and see where your team stacks up. But I generally think that this will be very easy for most people because United are very close to the top in terms of positioning. See, positioning, they've got the best in the land. You're setting the benchmark for positioning. You got the best defenders. So 14, 15, easy to hit. Most of your attributes are going to be in the region of 14 to 15 for your mentals, for your defenders. In terms of acceleration, for the rest of the league, in terms of their physical acceleration, this is something that I like to pay attention to because I want to know how fast the rest of the league is. Now, the fastest team in the league is definitely Manchester City. Their midfield and their strikers are about 15. So that's the only thing that United doesn't have going for them is a lot of pace in the back line. Now, if you look at their defenders as well, the acceleration for some of your defenders is 13.82, whereas if we checked earlier, the attack side, midfield and attack, is a lot higher. So this is something that we have to bear in mind when we decide to use the defensive line strategy. If you want to push a defensive line and camp in people's halves, you have to remember that some of your players may have to take some time coming back, which explains why United have different strategies in their games. Now, when we analyze their squad, you'll find that United have a pretty strong squad. And based on this, based on the depth of their squad, they actually have several systems that they play. If you're looking at the defenders in the team, most of the defenders have relatively good position. The central defenders like Chris Smalling, 16 positioning, attention 16. Chris Smalling's only problem, and this is true in real life as well, his concentration levels are not very good. Sometimes he doesn't see the danger until it's too late, and he definitely isn't very good at distributing the ball. Daley Blind, he's a lot better. He's a much more solid player all around. But his weakness right now, Daley Blind's weakness, is definitely his inability to handle the aerial threat. Then they've got Axel Tuanzebe. Now, Tuanzebe is a very young player in this team. He's 19 years old, but he has tremendous potential. So this is one player you might want to start developing. The downside of Tuanzebe, of course, is his low determination, which could be a factor in games that are really tough and close. So one of the things that United players are going to have to do is, okay, we're going to look at Eric Bally as well. He's 23 years old. You've got age on your side. You've got Chris Smalling, Eric Bally, Phil Jones, who's already 25, so relatively young team, and you don't have to go out there right now and go, I need a central defender. So when it comes to United itself, you don't really need a central defender. When it comes to scouting, you're going to be very careful about how you use your scouts. Right, so central defender, you don't need one just yet. When it comes to the United fullbacks, age is not on their side because you've got Valencia and Ashley Young, both of them are 31. When we look at the United youth team, there are some players who have a lot of promise. We've got Cameron Borthwick-Jackson, who happens to be one of the players I ended up using in my Gloucester City save when he gets older, and he's ended up playing for my Gloucester City save until well into his 30s. Very has a lot of potential, and you can definitely look at him to train him as a very good central defender. Then we've also got Timothy Fosu-Mensah. Fosu-Mensah is another very good defender. So is there a need for manager who's taking over United to start, okay, I need to get in my players? No. These players both have to be on loan, which is the right thing that the club has done. The other players in the team, like Demetri Mitchell and Joe Riley, if you can get them out on loan as quickly as you can, this is what you do. Because if they stay in the club, they're not going to develop. So they have to go on loan. So if you have any of your young players who are between the age, who are below 23, who are not playing in your first team, you're not bringing them through your first team, it's going to be a liability. They're not going to develop very well. They need first team play. If they don't get first team action, this whole bunch will be useless within a few years. Then when we're looking at defensive midfielders, well, United have enough defensive midfielders to last them for a while. They've got Nemanja Matic and they've got Victor Lindelof. Those are two fairly decent defensive midfielders. And they also have another player that they often call into midfield to help shore up the midfield. But this is Mariana Fellini. But Fellini's biggest weakness is his acceleration. He makes for a pretty decent player, but his his lack of acceleration and his general overall inability to chase after a player sometimes makes him a liability in most of the games. You got Jesse Lingard, who's plays as an attacking midfielder, very exciting player, passing, very young still, passing determination is there. His vision is not altogether that fantastic, but United have used him on the right flank occasionally. Then we've got Paul Pogba, who can play as a Mazzala. Now, his positioning isn't fantastic, so ideally you want to be putting him on the flank where you can actually get some other players to contribute to the defensive phase. And then we've of course got Henrik Mkhitaryan, who's the attacking boy wonder, and Juan Mata. Both of them bring a lot of attacking flair to the team. Going forward into the future, United will start having to look for defensive midfielders. So this is one area of the game that you may want to start looking at, because if you're a United player for the long haul, you may want to focus your scouts on searching young and upcoming defensive midfielders who can come into and join your youth team, and you can start developing them. You won't need them for another 3 to 4 seasons, but this is the time when you start hunting them down. Up front, United have 3 strikers. You got Romelu Lukaku, Anthony Martial, and Marcus Rashford. In most cases, Lukaku has been used as a target man. Now, he's a pretty good target man in the game, with a jumping reach of 17 and heading of 15. He's got the strength to hold up the ball. His ball distribution skills, however, leave a lot to be desired. So, if I was a United player, right, managing United, I definitely would look for another striker. Now, it's not because Lukaku is not good, but it's because you may need certain options in the future. But this is a plan for the future. So if you have a United, if you want to use your team for the long haul, one of the things you are going to be doing is scouting for another striker, young striker that you can add to your team as they move into the future. So if I were you, I would focus my scouts on looking for a striker, or I would be giving James Mitchell a run in the first team. They've used a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3, and even a 3-4-1-2. Now, whenever they use the 4-2-3-1, Mourinho lines up with 2 holding players. Mkhitaryan is usually the guy behind the 3 players in front, and they've got 2 holding players. Usually it's Pogba and Matic, or sometimes Matic and Herrera, sometimes Matic and Fellini. But generally, that's how they play. However, when United switch to a 4-3-3, which they do as well within the same game, then Matic drops into a holding role, and then you have got 2 more central midfielders. One of them usually ends up playing like a Mazzala. In the match against Spurs, United switched to a 3-4-1-2. Here, Matic and Herrera were assigned the job of moving into the half spaces to create overloads. Regardless of how they play, Rashford, Lukaku, Lingard are sometimes expected to move out to the flanks to provide width as well. When we talk about tactics for United, we're going to try and get into the spirit, try and get them as close to how they play. We may not be entirely accurate all the way, but at least we can get most of the players in the right positions. With United, I'm inclined to start with a 4-2-3-1. And we have several different systems that United they can use. They can also use the 4-1-2-3 here. Definitely, you'd be moving Pogba into the Mazzala position, and then you'd have Rashford. Usually he hugs wide, so he's going to play as more like an inside forward and support. Lingard is an inside forward and attack. However, you can easily get Lingard to play as a winger and attack without too much difference, because Lingard's player traits, he cuts inside from both wings anyway. Then there's one final system that they have used. It's the 3-4-2-1. Here, once again, I'll push Pogba to the top and get Matic and Herrera to be playing here. Herrera is the playmaker and Matic over here. Then we get Rashford and... we'll probably be using Valencia and either Matteo Darmian, but basically Ashley Young or Valencia as the wing backs, and you have your 3 central defenders for Manchester United. Here, once again, you'll be looking at trying to create a 3-4-2, and I'll run through all the tactics very slowly. The 4-2-3-1 will play the wing back on defense in this slot, and then a full back on support. I'll remove Mark Taiter. I had this on for Valencia, but it didn't seem to work very well. Then we got 2 central defenders, and a goalkeeper will be told to distribute to centre backs and to take short kicks. In midfield, naturally, this should be Matic and not our friend, what's his name, Lukaku. Lukaku will be here. All right. So when it comes to Matic, we'll tell him to shoot less often, dribble less, close out more, and take few risky passes. On his left, we'll have a roaming playmaker in the form of Herrera. This is a bit of a risky move, but I think United can pull it off. If you find that this makes you very uncomfortable, then what you can easily do is change this to maybe another central midfielder on support. But generally, you want two supporting midfielders here. You are playing what basically you're doing what United does in real life, which is to have two holding players in midfield. They're just gonna pivot off each other. In the attacking playmakers position, I'm inclined to use Pogba further up the pitch so that we get you get that partnership between Pogba and Lukaku. So we get Pogba playing up top, and then you could get him to move into channels, or you can just get him to hang about and then make those passes to the complete forward or play it out wide to the inside forwards. Here, the inside forwards have been told to mark a specific position. Now, in all the systems, you will have the wider players marking the opposite AMs. So if you're playing against a tactic that's a 4-1-2-2-1 or maybe even a 4-2-3-1 like this, then the inside forward here will be marking. You go to the edit player position and he'll be marking the AMR or the MR. So if it's a 4-4-2, then he marks the MR. If it's a wider system, you mark the AMR. The same thing with the right position here. You get them to mark AML. Once again, there are two ways of getting to the screen. You can go to play instructions and you can come in here and you can set this up. So any of your players that is playing in this position, or if you want to change the roles, you can come here and do it. And then for this position, they're always going to be marking a specific position. And if you want to change this, mark the specific position will apply to the winger, advanced playmaker, any of these roles. So if you choose all these roles, then they will apply to these. But I wouldn't recommend it for the advanced playmaker or even the Ramdauter, because they don't really do much in terms of tackling. So this is one way of setting it up. Now, on the up top, we'll have a complete forward and support for Lukaku. Now, when it comes to the team instructions, play out the defense, work ball into box, play narrow, use offside trap, and prevent short goalkeeper distribution. This is so that we can apply the pressure in the opponent's half. As far as opposition instructions go, for most games, you probably want to put some pressure on their backline. However, it really depends on the kind of system you're playing against. If you're playing against a team that's fairly attacking, then it's fine. But if you play against a team that's going to sit back and want to hit you on the counter attack, and they're sitting back in a 4-2 configuration, then it's fairly dangerous, especially if they have three or four players playing in advanced positions. In that particular case, you don't want to be using opposition instructions. In our other system, which is a 4-1-2-3, again, this position, it all depends on how. If you want, I use wing backs because they're more inclined to go forward, but it's perfectly okay to use full backs on support in this position, because the question remains whether or not the United boys are good in, whether they have what it takes to do the job very well. Because there have been times when I played these matches where Valencia tends to drift away and he's not in the right position to come back and defend. And if you notice that happening, then change into a fullback on support. This is very much what happens in real life anyway. So sometimes Valencia is a bit more attacking, sometimes it's not, and it really depends. Because if you want to keep you want to lock your team down and make sure that they don't give up so much space to other teams, then generally you'll be going with the fullback on support. Same applies onto the other flank. Now for both the players, you're looking at asking them to do the same. In this particular case, you don't want it to mark specific position, but you can look at few risky passes and dribble less, because these instructions will help you keep possession of the ball and make sure that they pass the ball to the midfield so that they don't hoof the ball unnecessarily. The two central defenders are doing the same thing. Goalkeeper, once again, you want the goalkeeper to take short kicks to the centre backs or distribute it to the centre backs as far as possible, or even to the full backs. In midfield, here it's either use a ball-winning midfielder on support or a central midfielder on support. Who is given a bit of these instructions: move into channels, fewer risky passes, close up one dribble, less. The reason why it's moving into channels is because I want to control these two zones over here. I want my players to move in and then try and control these zones. We have now that is a risk, can be a risky maneuver, because if your boys are not able to find them with passes, then you're gonna leave. Matic has to be on song to do a good job. You got Matic and you got Lindelof. Both of them can play in a DM position. Up top, you got an inside forward on support. We've got an inside forward on attack and a complete forward on support. In terms of team instructions here, this is basically a counter-attacking system. So, but I'm using it on standard or structured or control structured. Now, if I find that my flanks are being overrun, then I'll go control structured. But if I want to hit teams, the reason why we're using the structured shape is that we get Lingard, I mean, to some extent, even Rashford further up the pitch. But these guys also have, will be required to have this mark-specific position on them as well. So both of them, Lingard and the winger on the opposite flank, will be given this instruction so that they can track the runs of the opposite AML and come back and help your team defend. Up top, the complete forward and support is just doing his own thing. Now, with this player, again, you can do closing down much more and tackle harder as a play instruction. Finally, the last system. This system, well, it's just been created by me. I was messing about with this and I was thinking to myself, wouldn't this be interesting? They've only played the 3-4-2-1. They've played this 3-4-2-1 very. I haven't seen them play this very often, but it's an interesting system. It can work, but it's one of the high risk strategies in the game. Here again, the defensive wingers have to mark the AML, AMR. You've got a roaming playmaker and a central midfielder on support. Can this player be a central midfielder on defense? Very possible. This will lock him down in this position. This will allow you to perhaps change this guy into a wide midfielder on support. But when you do this, it opens up the entire right flank, so you're going to have issues here. So there are many ways of playing this. But whenever United use this system in real life, it's more or less a central midfielder on support. To some extent, it's a defensive winger on support or a defensive winger on defense, because this chap moves into channels. Again, so they tend to move into channels as well. I don't particularly like this system, but they've used it against Spurs. In FM18, it does okay, but it's a high risk, one of those high risk strategies if you wanted to use it. Roaming playmaker moves into channels. This dude will move into channels too, though I'm more inclined to remove this and play this as a defensive midfielder because I don't have the balls to play this key tactic. Then we have attacking midfielder will get further forward, move into channels. This is where Pogba is going to play, or Mkhitaryan. But I rather put Pogba here and put two solid ball winners here, and that does not include Fellini. It's probably you have players who can play in this position. And then up top, a target man and a poacher. This is cool because it will allow you to give a run out to one of your under 23 strikers. What's his name? I think he was here a while ago. I can't remember where he is now. But one of your under 23 strikers has a chance to play here, and I would give James Wilson a chance in this position because you can see he's perfectly suited to this job. So he is definitely one of the best youngsters best youngsters in your club. So there you go. 3 tactics that you can use with Manchester United. I've already used which tactic did I use to beat Real Madrid? I used the 4-2-3-1 to beat Real Madrid. But Pogba was playing here. Lukaku was playing here. I had Rashford and Lingard. I had Matic and Herrera. And the back line was playing as a fullback on support and a wing-back on defense. And we did okay. We managed to take the European Super Cup. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Getting Started with United. And You found some of it useful. Now the tactics, you will have to use them carefully because United, in my opinion, still have some weaknesses in the system. They need to get a defensive midfielder, and up top they only have Lukaku as a striker, one striker. You may have Rashford, you may have other players like Anthony Martial, which kind of forces a lot of United fans to think that maybe this is the way for them to play. I wouldn't be surprised either. But the downside of playing this system is that you probably will need to turn this guy into a fullback on defense sometimes because of Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba, when he plays in this position as a Mazzala, his tackling is only 12. Now, it doesn't mean he's a bad tackler, but he's got absolutely no positional sense when it comes to defending. So, if he's going to be here helping you defend, you're going to leave this flank quite vulnerable. So, it's either a fullback on defend or a wingback on defend. This is a choice you're going to have to make. And true to form, you're probably not going to get a lot of fantastic results, but it's one of those options that you have. Even a Mazzala on attack is an option for you. Then here, ball winning midfielder on support, keep this guy as a wing back on defense, and this system can definitely work with Manchester United. Personal favourite of mine, the 4-2-3-1. If I was going to play as United, I'd probably create a 4-2-3-1 like this and a defensive 4-2-3-1 with DM slots. Maybe even go strikeless and then put two here, then put the rest, put the two here, then put three midfielders here and put Lukaku somewhere in the middle here. Yes, you can also play it as a strikeless version and it can still work. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Getting Started with Manchester United. If you have any questions, you know to find me. You can always look me on Twitter at Bustthenet or addicted2fm.com, my website. Once again, I'd like to thank my patrons for making this kind of shows possible for the rest of the community. You guys take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.